An investigation uncovers many children seeking asylum in Sweden are older than they claim. Philadelphia business owners face criticism for taking protective measures in high-crime areas. And a porn star pressured into sex commits suicide. That coming up on Make Robots Not War. Stay tuned. Welcome to Make Robots Not War. My name is Jacob Santillon.
And I am former libtard, Annika O'Brien.
Thank you very much for joining us today. Let's just get right into it. Hopefully you'll actually find today's show enlightening. So this is actually a story that is fairly, it's actually not fairly, it's extremely sad. I wanted to get to this story and not for the obvious lurid reasons, but because of the very dark implications of what transpired. So recently, outspoken porn actress August...
First, okay, my favorite YouTuber, I will say of all time, because I've only been back on YouTube for the last few months, Mr. Metokur.
Yeah.
I was kind of having a back and forth with some people on Twitter, and he not only retweeted my tweet, but he responded. And do you have the tweet? I think I screenshotted
here,
it.
hold on.
Oh, God damn it. Please don't let me down, Jacob.
It's okay.
I think I screenshotted it and sent it.
Here we go.
But,
so you said to him, for the benefit of those listening on the podcast, I await your video on this subject. Such a sad story, regardless of her career choice. She's a human being and doesn't deserve bullying for not wanting HIV/AIDS. To which, of course, he retweets you saying, I wasn't planning on it.
He was not planning on it, but because I am his favorite #1 fan, even though he doesn't follow me on Twitter, but I just found out this morning that he follows no one. So, Mr. Metokur, I am taken, sadly, but if that changes in the future and we cross each other's paths, and if you would like to follow anyone on Twitter, you may follow me. I will not let you down.
So, just to finish the tweet, it says, I wasn't planning on it, but I hate smug C's. And
Cunt.
Yeah, well,
I can say that. I'm explicit.
Yeah. And there is also the fact that other porn stars are saying Jackson has threatened them before, saying he'd cut their throats. We're going to get to that here in a second, but just to kind of
I will also go ahead, if anybody wants a little more about this story, Metokur's covered it quite a bit, so I'm not going to sit here and cover the entire story. He did a really good job, so we're not going to cover the entire story. I'm going to link...
Well, let's do some quick 5 Ws.
Yeah, we're going to, for the sake of brevity.
Yeah.
But I will link to not only his video, I will also, which he kind of cleaned up in his video quite a bit, the whole story. I'm glad he did a good job, but... So I'm not going to repeat the whole story here.
Yeah.
I will link to a couple of his threads in both the iTunes and our YouTube in our description box. Yeah. If anybody wants to know a little bit more.
Yeah. So just for the benefit of those who may not be, aware of this story, maybe they haven't been following particularly closely, let's at least get to a little bit of the facts of the case. So outspoken porn actress August Ames took her own life after being harassed on Twitter for her opinions. On December 3rd, she tweeted her personal decision not to shoot with male porn actors who've shot gay porn and a warning to another performer. She said, whatever lady performer is replacing me on, let's see, where is it? Whichever lady performer is replacing me tomorrow on Erotica X News, you're shooting with a guy who has shot gay porn, just to let you know. BS is all I can say. Do agents really not care about who they're representing? LA Direct, I do my homework for my body.
From what I understand, it is high risk. A lot of the in the gay community in porn, HIV is more prevalent than in gay straight. Or in female, and it's very well known. This isn't like a bigoted statement for her to make, whether you're protected or not. So this isn't a condom issue, and it's well known enough that even other, like Jenna Jameson, there were some other female porn stars who have refused to shoot with gay actors as well. It's not considered homophobic to say that you don't want to expose yourself to HIV. Also, California has recently, and we covered this on our podcast in the past, has recently, I wouldn't say decriminalized it, but has made it no longer a felony to knowingly and with malice give somebody HIV or AIDS.
Yeah, which is just that's nuts to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I know we've covered this story before, but it's just
so in California, where the overwhelming majority of American pornography is shot in like the Burbank Chatsworth area, you will it's not only no longer criminal. There's also, so some years ago, I want to say around 2009, 10, somewhere in that time, there were some issues that came up in Los Angeles about whether or not adult entertainers should have to use condoms.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys remember that story. And, you know, there was a lot of people had opinions about it.
Of course.
Because they were saying, first off, it helps the community because it gets people used to seeing condoms. So it makes it less awkward for them in their own personal lives when they have to use protection. What's the word? It normalizes it, I should say, in everyday sexual lives. But then there were other people saying that, you know, we're adults, we should get to choose. But then there's also, I think one thing that some porn actresses came out with was they were saying that they've been denied jobs because they insisted on using protection. And even though the law stated that if they wanted protection, that they could get it, they said that they were denied jobs because of it. So by making it a law, it protected them.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. Okay. It does. Let's see. She did actually get quite a bit of hate for this.
Yeah. Overwhelming. She was considered homophobic, which doesn't even compute with me. So.
Yeah. I'm gonna let's see. Let me bring up.
I went back and forth with a couple of people. I'm not gonna pull up those tweets because I.
Yeah, just for the sake of brevity, here let me pull up this. Somebody says, turns out being an uneducated homophobe didn't get you a pat on the head.
Yeah.
Maybe next time think before you word vomit for attention.
After she died, they continued to kick her.
Oh yeah, and
they just it was pretty grotesque.
Yeah, here we go. This we mentioned Jackson Wheeler, who basically told. Now, this is granted before her death, but told the world is awaiting your apology for you to swallow a cyanide pill.
Yeah,
either or, we'll take it.
Yeah, and then she died, and then he continued on. In fact, he started posting. So I had to avoid his. He responded to me in one of his tweets.
Yeah.
When I went at him, and then one of the other guys, they started posting videos of themselves on Twitter doing pretty disgusting, like, I'm not going to say, but Twitter didn't, I think there's certain camera angles at which you can do things that don't get you taken off Twitter.
I don't know.
Because,
I don't know.
Because I reported, and they weren't taken down. I reported again the same video. It was like worse than... It was like,
yeah, it was
salads.
And
I'm like, how is this even like allowed on Twitter?
But Gab shouldn't be in the App Store.
Yeah. I was like, this is not. Yeah. It was like 2 girls, 1 cup, but it was like 1 man, 1 bowl of. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I got you.
1 great big bowl of pudding, and I don't know how it was even allowed on Twitter, but Twitter allows it. So.
Yeah. Well, she receives this avalanche of she's apparently a homophobe and a bigot because she doesn't want to have sex with a guy.
Even though
who does
she
gay
does
porn.
primarily woman.
I don't know.
Woman scene. Well, from what? Okay, and I'm also not. I wasn't familiar with her until this took place. But from what I've gathered, just Googling her name. She's not a racist. She's definitely not a racist, and she's definitely not a homophobe. she prefers women, from what I understand, at least when it comes to her work.
Yeah.
So anyway, she also apparently had a history of depression, and so it wasn't like she just killed herself out of nowhere. But so she had a history of depression. And
just to establish a fact or
Okay.
use some facts real quick. According to the blast, Ames's death was confirmed by the Ventura County Medical Examiner's Office, and and she basically hanged herself.
Yeah.
Now, I do want to say, in the interest of restraint, that there's nothing that particularly verifies. I actually saw this over there at Kotaku in action. There's nothing that actually particularly verifies that I'm aware of that her suicide was specifically caused by this reaction. But let's also have a little bit of common sense where nobody's going to be really
in any
surprised.
other circumstance, they would be looking at pressing charges.
Possibly.
They would, I guarantee you, because they have before. There are people sitting in jail because they bullied. When multiple people bully somebody and tell them to commit suicide on Twitter and then they kill themselves, this has happened before.
Yeah, but... Well,
and she is a member of, I guess you could loosely say she's a member of the LGBT community. I mean, she's not a straight woman.
Right.
So anyway, I don't want to stick to this. I don't want to stick to the subject too much. It's more about kicking her corpse even afterwards. So we will go ahead and link
well
to
into
the stories.
I think somebody said one guy. I'm pulling up another section. A guy named Bruce Beckham said today, friends, performers, and fans are attributing blame to myself and others who weighed in. For the record, I'm sorry for her loss of life and whatever personal struggles caused her to choose to end her own life when faced with confrontation, accountability, and education. So basically,
it's still about
Neon Taster, who I like. Shame she chose suicide rather than to capitulate to our hate mob and have sex with me on camera. Great apology, human garbage. Which that was pretty terrible of that dude. But no, there was a reason that we selected this story, and not for the obvious reasons. We're not just here looking to talk about porn stars.
Yeah.
But there is an element that we're going to be bringing up through this show. This sort of, and we'll tie it all together towards the end. But
it really comes down to pressuring women into having sex is not okay unless it's SJWs pressuring a woman into having sex. And then when she kills herself, they continue to call her homophobic and call her and now they can blame her death on the fact that she was an uneducated homophobic.
But we live in, so... we've success, and I'm not a particularly socially conservative guy, but it's kind of interesting that we've these are people who want to blow apart the traditional borders and boundaries of sexual morality.
Yep.
But also, again, like we said before, dramatically expand the criteria of rape and sexual assault. You've got the Harvey with stuff going on, but at the same time, these people seem to feel entirely valid in calling you a bigot or trying to pressure you into sex when you don't want to have it.
Yeah, pretty much. And they don't see it that way.
No.
And they see it as one less homophobe in the world. The fact that they're even choosing to make this about homosexuality to me just blows my fucking mind. They don't see the irony in pressuring a woman into having sex.
No, not at all. And this isn't something that... This isn't a one-off thing.
Yeah.
There was, I've seen certain transgender activists refer to, quote unquote, genital preferences as transphobic.
Riley Dennis.
Yeah.
The Riley Dennises of the world,
Which that carries a very dark implication.
If you guys aren't familiar with Riley, I don't want to go into her either.
Yeah.
I'd really like to change the subject and get on to
sure. No, that's fine.
My favorite subject of all time, which is, migrants in Sweden. Because I can't talk enough about that subject.
Okay. But we'll tie up this loose end towards the end of the show.
No, I mean we can finish out this story.
No, that's fine.
It's depressing for me because and again, I'm really not a fan of the adult film industry, and I think there's a lot of hurt people in that industry, but it's it's really sad to me that right now we have a dead 23-year-old woman who could have otherwise like had people that actually cared about her, and she didn't need to be educated. Who cares? She didn't want to have sex with a gay guy. Who cares? She didn't want HIV. Who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares? If she never wanted to have sex again, who cares? It's nobody's business who she wanted to have sex with or didn't want to have sex with. If she would have said, I never want to have sex with.
It's quite literally her business to determine who she wants to have sex with.
From the people who talk about like empowering women's sexuality.
And consent and all this stuff. Apparently, she didn't have the right to say no to this.
Exactly.
All right. So we'll go ahead and leave that behind for now.
Yeah.
And we'll head on over to Sweden with Annika's favorite thing to talk
Migrants.
about. So in November, and this is according to the BBC, Sweden's Justice Minister Morgan Johansson
Johansson.
No, excuse me.
Morgan Johansson.
No, it's I'm actually pulled up the wrong one. That's okay. A Swedish investigation, this is from the BBC, into migrants claiming asylum as children suggests that 3/4 of those tested were over the age of 18. Between mid-March and late October, Sweden's National Forensics Medicine Agency checked the age of nearly 8,000 people and found that about 6,600 were 18 or over, a ratio of about 84%. Age assessment is carried out by taking x-rays of wisdom teeth and MRI scans of knee joints, which are then analyzed to determine age. Child migrants are less likely to be sent back to their country of origin, and the checks were only carried out in cases where there were doubts as to the person's age. The International Organization for Migration says many asylum seekers do not have identity documents, as they may have lost them as they fled conflict or natural disaster. Such medical tests are controversial, with some experts saying that dental evidence is not reliable. According to the local,
Bullshit. I have a biology degree. It's bullshit.
According to the local, more than 80,000 minors, of whom 37,000 arrived in the country.
We can date mummies that died hundreds of years ago based on their dental records.
Yeah, so
that's my favorite word now. Bullshit. I watched a portion of my political compass test. I think I said that word like 50 times.
Yeah, just to close this out real quick. According to the local, more than 80,000 minors, of whom 37,000 arrived in the country without a parent or guardian, applied for asylum in Sweden in 2015 and 2016. Take it away.
Yeah, I don't know. What am I going to say about this? We pretty much just... Yeah, so... okay, so allegedly, we tried to verify this with... legitimate news sources. There was and
even the legitimate is questionable these days with all the
but there was
I get your point.
What I'm saying is that there was a dentist, I guess, that had been fired. I asked Jacob to look up the story, and he said there was just some kind of like iffy blogs that had written. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
But there was supposedly a dentist that had been fired. Wouldn't surprise me at all.
Given the state of
Morgan Johansson is kind of a person that I don't trust at all. He also I don't like his views on the rape crisis.
Yeah.
He thinks that rape has more to do with, even if 99% of the rapists all come from a specific region, he thinks that we should not be allowed to. He's the one who is fighting against being able to track like the identity of a rapist. So if a woman comes in and says, "Hey, my assailant looks like X," it's like, no, we don't want to know what your assailant looks like. So they don't want to actually catch the rapists. And Morgan Johansson was behind that.
Yeah,
he's fighting against women being able to actually find their rapists.
Yeah, that is. I don't like that either.
So what I was saying, what I've said before, and I have to be very careful about the way I word this, is I wouldn't be surprised if Morgan Johansson, if many, many, many women come out in the future claiming that making accusations that he is a male feminist. He's probably a male feminist, if you know what I'm saying.
Quote unquote, air quotes.
Yes. Only just based on his views on women and the way he actually treats women.
Well, I think it was...
And the way he's dealing with this migrant crisis. Because he seems to have absolutely no concerns for the women and children of Sweden.
Well, earlier actually it was in November. I'll go ahead and bring this up. Sweden's Justice Minister Morgan Johansson rejected a proposal by the moderate party to record the ethnic backgrounds of sex attackers, saying, according to the Swedish broadcaster STV, that the only thing that matters is they are men. Johansson says that the moderates, the moderate party there, just want to blame the rise in sex crimes on migrants and argue that all criminals should be treated equally. Johansson said and added, she says, the common denominator of those who commit these crimes is that they are men. He adds that it seems like the moderates are pulling out of talking about the men's role in this and instead just want to blame the migrants.
Yep.
In January, the populist Sweden Democrats made a similar proposal when they asked the government for information relating to the relationship between migration and crime. Johansson rejected that request. He has also been criticized for ruling out the possibility of stripping Islamic State fighters of their Swedish citizenship.
Yep, because he doesn't want them to remain stateless. I don't like this guy at all. He's gross to me. He looks like one of my uncles. He does. Unfortunately. Yeah. This guy grosses me out, like, in so many ways, because I don't know if I hope that he's virtue signaling. I hope he did. It's the only thing I can think of, but he's virtue signaling. Unfortunately, he's in a position of power.
Right.
That's what bothers me. If he's virtue signaling, but he was just a guy at a dinner party who was trying to impress everyone there and to, I'm not a racist, I promise, it wouldn't bother me. But the fact that he's got...
he can shape policy.
Yes.
By virtue of his position in the government.
Yes, that's what terrifies me.
No, this does seem to be some genuine clown world stuff where... I mean, when it comes to crime,
well, the one
you need
thing
to be able
all
to...
of these, all of the rapists have in common is that they're all human beings. We could say that.
But I mean...
They're all human. Why even call them men? That's sexist. Why not call them human beings? Men are the minority. And at like 49.8%
something like
of
that.
the global population are men.
Yeah, but it seems pretty crazy to me that...
Yeah, Sweden blocks requests for data on link between crime and immigration. That's so crazy to me, though, that they don't even want a woman to be able to describe her assailant.
Do they actively?
Mm-hmm. They do. The police actually. Yeah, the police actually. I'm not making this up. I can try to find a link. If you want. We don't edit our podcast, so I can't really look it up right now, but I can do it in the future, and I can link in the description. I'll try to find a link to something that's like a Swedish article, and then Google allows you to translate. Even a loose translation would be better. I really don't want to link to things like Breitbart and like the right wing, because I'm trying not, even though I'm no longer a libtard.
Yeah.
I'd like to link to something that's like a more left-leaning, like The Independent or The Guardian.
Sure.
Just so that people don't feel like I'm being overly biased on the right.
No, I understand.
But it bothers me that left-leaning rags tend to not cover these topics as much.
They'll It kind of blows me away that they're willing to conceal this kind of information from the public.
Yeah.
And
yep.
I don't have any numbers in front of me at the moment, but apparently, if I know that you can't always link correlation with causation, but it doesn't mean it's always false either.
Yeah.
Just like we talked about the porn star story. Yeah. Okay. All right, we don't necessarily have that one particular suicide note that says why she committed suicide, but it's not going to be.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by.
If they hadn't done that, then odds are she wouldn't have killed herself that day.
Probably not. And likewise, when you have,
I would bet a lot of money that she'd still be with us today.
Yeah.
Had they not done that.
And likewise, back in Sweden, if they've imported an enormous proportion of migrants into their country and these sex attacks suddenly spike, and now you have grenade attacks and these no-go zones.
Well, it's not Swedish men that are doing it.
Well, isn't that one of the tricks that they play?
Oh, once your feet hit the soil, you're Swedish.
Yeah, no matter what.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I want to get off of a story like that, and I want to get to something that doesn't hit close to home.
Okay, where are we going next?
Philly?
Philly?
I don't know. Who wants to talk about Philadelphia?
Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to talk about how Asians are apparently racist because they don't like to die?
Well, yeah. Apparently, there's going over to Philadelphia.
God, we are so ill prepared. We don't even know how to segue here.
No, it's
I'm
okay.
going to let you be the producer, and I'm just going to sit
That's
here
okay.
and be pretty. Okay.
So this moving on to Philadelphia, this story by the Philadelphia Inquirer focused on a man by the name of Jeff Liu, he's the owner of a local Germantown beer deli, Kenny's Seafood and Steak, and his conflict with city councilwoman Cindy Bass. Bass doesn't particularly care for the thick plexiglass barriers that he has in place for his own protection, calling them an insult and indignity to those in the neighborhood. She has proposed legislation that would force beer deli owners to remove thick plexiglass counter windows. Chairman of the Asian American Licensed Beverage Association of Philadelphia, Adam Zhu, says, that's spelled X-U, says the protective window should be a business owner's choice. His association represents 217 beer delis in the city, about 70% of which are owned by people who are ethnic Chinese and another 20% of Korean descent. He notes that most of their businesses are in not as safe neighborhoods. The deli's previous owner, Bill Chow, says a customer who claimed Chow shortchanged him threw bleach at him through an opening in the plexiglass, even after he showed the man the surveillance video disproving his claim. Chow says without the window, the bleach could have hit him in the face and the eyes, and he was lucky that he wasn't hurt. State law requires businesses selling malt liquor or beer to have tables and chairs sufficient for 30 people and to regularly prepare and sell food. The proposed city prohibition on the window would apply to beer delis, but not to takeouts that don't sell alcohol. Bass and Liu have clashed before. Over the summer, she and others visited his store unannounced, setting up folding tables and chairs in a bid to showcase businesses that she said flouted the law by selling alcohol without providing seats for food. Bass says the windows only foster a sense that the establishment, and more specifically its clientele, is dangerous, and that too many of those stores masquerade as eateries when their biggest sales draw is alcohol, feeding vices in the city's struggling neighborhoods. Bass's legislation needs a majority of 4 votes in the 7-member Public Health Committee to head to a full council vote on the 14th of December. Mayor Kinney, through his spokeswoman, said that he doesn't have yet a position on the bill.
It's a free market. I don't like her. Okay, I don't like her at all because I actually saw a video of her talking about this, and I guarantee you, if these were black people whose lives were at risk, she would care a lot. But Korean lives don't matter in this instance. Sorry, I have lived in a lot of major cities. I haven't lived in Chicago or Philadelphia, but I've lived in Dallas, in the city of Dallas. I've lived in Manhattan, New York. I've lived in Los Angeles, San Francisco. I've lived in areas, even here in Houston, I've had to stop and get gas at places that have really thick plexiglass. And I've never, usually if you stop at a place, well, in New York, it's very common. Same thing in San Francisco. Everywhere you go, there's plexiglass. Yeah. A lot of places downtown Los Angeles, it's just you get used to it. You never go in there and get offended and say, oh, you're racist towards me. This woman needs to get over herself. If you're in an area of high crime, the fact that she's making it about black people makes her the racist. I wish they would throw that up in her face. If she's going to say that it's drawing in liquor sales, what does that say about the people in the community?
Well, it's not even that. I don't particularly care about that.
But she's making this about like she's making it sound like the Koreans don't trust black people. No, the Koreans don't want to get shot. Like, so you remember I had mentioned about like after the LA riots, like the 93, 94, the LA riots, the Asian community was targeted by the African American community. The Asians tend to be seen as very weak, especially, and I'm talking about just that particular community. I'm not saying all black people attack all Asian people, but in that particular community, they were targeted because they were seen as unarmed, weak, and they tend to not fight back. They tend to be smaller in stature, and they tend to be business owners, and a lot of them run cash businesses. You see that all the time. If you look at World Star Hip Hop, they will attack Asian people because they think it's funny, and not all. And I remember this came up after the UCLA. The 3 guys got in trouble for shoplifting over in Korea. Which is North Korea? No, it wasn't North.
No, it was. Are you talking about
China? I don't know why I said Korea.
LeVar Ball's kid?
Because I'm racist.
Yeah, it was China.
They're all Asian. Yes,
Yeah, in China,
yes, LeVar, yes, LeVar Ball. Oh, funny story about that.
It was. I can't.
Funny story. I'm going to cut
Ball?
you off,
Yeah.
and then I'm going to let you finish. Yes, LeVar Burton was getting shit on Twitter for that because a bunch of stupid MAGA people were going after him because they don't know the difference.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm going to let you finish.
No. I was trying to get the name right.
Okay,
I couldn't
yeah.
remember which
So,
one of the Ball brothers it was.
Yes. So they were shoplifting over there, and that brought up the conversation again about how they view Asians to be these small, weak people.
Yeah.
Very easy targets. And I know in Los Angeles and a lot of large cities, I don't know that much about Philly other than it's a rough place, like Chicago. It's a rough place. It's like Detroit. It's just rough. And it's cold. Right?
Yeah.
It's always icy. Right?
Well, yeah.
Cold.
I mean,
yeah, it's cold as fuck. It's like Sweden cold.
Sure.
But I think it's a lot harsher. Like the elements are colder. Or
Yeah.
it's more like tundra, I think. With that, it's like a scene out of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Anyway, so to get back to the story. So a lot of these small business owners are targeted for crime. And I think a lot of them also run cash businesses, like at least the smaller ones.
Yeah.
Like they tend to keep more cash on hand. And so they want to protect themselves. So they have bulletproof glass. A lot of gas stations tend to run overnight. They don't want to get shot in the face. And so she's like, well, we need to set this nice family ambiance. No, we need to not get shot in the fucking face for running a business.
Yeah, and that's fundamentally the issue here. I'm going to pull up a tweet by Cindy Bass for the benefit of those listening. Stop and Goes don't sell groceries or household items. They sell beer and shots of liquor, chips for kids, and cold medicine that can be converted into street drugs to get high. That's it. This is what we're trying to stop.
Then why don't you change? Okay, if she's going to make this about like these Asians are harming the black community because they sell cold medicine, then why doesn't she work on changing the black community?
Well, the implication is that they're selling, cold medicine.
Yeah, I understand. I know Trayvon Martin was buying Skittles and Arizona iced tea for his lean. And I remember as soon as I saw that picture, I was like, oh, he's on codeine cough syrup.
But, regardless of what these, short of anything illegal, like actually illegal, these institutions, whatever they're selling, I don't think it's relevant to whether or not the owners or proprietors should be able to take measures to protect themselves.
Yeah.
In this case, from crime. To go back to the article itself, I know that they cited a couple of examples let's see. They mentioned Michelle Tran, the owner of Wayne Junction Deli, recalled a time in 2011 when an unarmed man climbed over the 6-foot plexiglass window and stole $200 to $300. Say Kim, hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly, who owns Broad Deli on Broad Street in North Philadelphia, said his business has been threatened numerous times but never robbed at gunpoint, crediting the plexiglass as a deterrence. Before his family took over the business 20 years ago, the prior owner's son was fatally shot when there was no partition. About 15 years ago, Kim said a man with a knife tried to rape his mother-in-law, but she was able to escape to safety behind the partition and lock the door.
Another one several years ago, after Lou argued with a man selling drugs in the Wayne Avenue Deli's lobby, a man returned with a rifle and shot Lou's car, shattering its windows. So these are not safe areas. I say these people just need to leave. Let the people in the neighborhood start their own businesses, or let the people in the neighborhood just not have businesses there. Let them take care of themselves.
I don't know what the solution to that is necessarily, but
then
I know
whoever's going to move into that neighborhood, even if they're black-owned businesses, they're going to deal with the same shit.
Right. Well, which is why I don't think the solution is to deny them the right or ability to protect
So now black
themselves.
people are going to get shot in their own businesses, and then what's going to be the solution?
I don't know.
You're not allowed to. You want to do your overarching little comment?
Oh well, yeah. I mean, just to bring it all together. The reason why we selected these 3 stories,
other than the fact that we just wanted to cut our own wrists today,
is that there seems to be this, except for words.
Yes.
Except
Okay.
for words.
Yeah. You can't have thoughts or words or you can't express yourself in any way that's a threat or a microaggression to anyone else.
Yeah. Words, speech, expression, as you said, which we're expected to believe by some elements in the political spectrum, or pretend to believe that these words are literally they're equivalent with physical violence. That there's this left-wing insistence on people not protecting themselves from actual physical harm.
Yeah.
Whether
let's disarm.
Whether it's the gun grabbers who say that you shouldn't have a gun to protect yourself, open borders activists that say it's racist to keep jihadis out of the country. In the case of this Philly Inquirer story, people who say you shouldn't install plexiglass to prevent yourself from being shot if you open a business in a high crime area.
The other thing is
to cap it off, the August Ames story, where
it's not just that they don't want you; it's that they don't even want you to know. Like I remember there were stories that I was reading about in the public schools where they were like, oh, okay, we're going to allow these new things to take place in the schools, but we don't even want the parents to know that we're doing this.
Right.
Yeah. Like, especially with the sex education stuff that was changing, or they were allowing kids, I remember over in the UK, they were forcing the kids to go to a mosque. The parents had no idea.
Yeah, I
stuff like that. Like, so it's like we're gonna enforce these new rules, these new social rules, but we're not even going to give you the option to opt out of it,
or to even know about it.
Yeah, to even know about it.
So yeah, it's that's mainly why we drew these stories together. And just to finish off, you have the case of August Ames, who you're not allowed to not fuck somebody. Yeah, you're not allowed to say no if you're worried about HIV in a state that just made it no longer a felony to deliberately spread it.
Yeah. If you don't want AIDS, go kill yourself.
Yeah.
And I know I'm being I'm being a lot of hyperbolic right now, but that is the direction that it's headed. And I used to say we need more liberals to speak out like this, but I'm apparently not a liberal anymore. I'm where Dave Rubin is.
Yeah.
So I'm like a tiny bit. I'm like a hair over from where Dave Rubin is.
I don't know if he's actually
he did his political compass test. Somebody, in fact, I
definitely missed that. Then
after it, somebody tagged me on Twitter.
Okay.
You should hang on every retweet that everybody posts me in, because somebody apparently who watched my political compass test had tagged me in a tweet that Dave Rubin had taken his, and so I'm like right next to where Dave Rubin is.
Yeah.
And there were a few that I may have, had I been in a different mood, I may have answered a few a little. Like, I might have said strongly agree instead of agree, or I might have said agree instead of strongly agree.
Yeah.
Things like that. But I still answered them to the best of my knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know I've got a birthday coming up fairly soon.
Okay,
we can do mine.
Yours.
We can do mine.
Are you going to be on camera?
Probably not. I'll be operating this stuff.
Do you look like an ogre? We don't know what you look like. Nobody knows what Jacob looks like.
No.
Jacob's AI I built him myself.
Let's actually let's cap off with a couple of positive things. The first one.
Do we have anything positive in the
Yes, we do. One has to do with Elon Musk, and we'll talk about that here in a second. You actually shared it with me, but Annika was actually, I showed her this the other day. She's actually late to this. This happened literally right after the World Series. You know what I'm getting at? Carlos Correa proposing.
Oh, that's so precious. Okay, yes. So I'm not a sports person. Is that what? Are you going the proposal? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not a big.
She's not a big sports person, so she didn't really know about this. I actually showed it to her the other day because it was just a cool thing.
Houston flooded significantly, and then right after the big flood, we had the World Series, which is like our Stanley Cup. I'm familiar with hockey. And it's like a big sport thing where they hit a ball with a wooden thing, a stick.
The sports ball.
Yeah, and then they have a diamond, a giant square, and they run around, and there's like bags of sand that they jump on, and they capture the flag, and then they take it back home. And so they get a ring at the end.
Close enough. Well, the Astros, for the non-sports
They
fan,
get a cup.
The Houston Astros won the World Series this year, and
against the LA Dodgers,
yes.
which made me happy.
Yeah. So almost immediately after the Astros won the World Series, one of the players for the Astros, Carlos Correa, actually proposed to his girlfriend, and
her name is Danielle
Rodriguez,
who was Miss Texas, gorgeous. She's 23 also.
Yeah. So here, let's cut to that real quick.
Okay, so we're gonna show you. Oh, I didn't even know we were gonna do this.
I've got the video. Let's go.
Super cute.
You've dreamed of this your whole life. This feeling. Is it everything you thought it would be?
It's everything and more, man. It's everything and more. It's one of the biggest steps of my life, one of the biggest accomplishments of my life. And right now I'm about to take another big step in my life. Daniela Rodriguez, you make me the happiest man in the world. Will you marry me? Will you marry me?
Oh my God.
Let me put it on you.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Yes?
Yes.
It goes like this.
I'm telling you, I was shocked, man. I was like, wow.
Whoa!
What was happening?
Yeah, that was Annika searching something up. But no, my favorite part of that was David Ortiz just looking totally dumbfounded, like, what the hell did I just see?
That was cute. I'm glad she said yes.
Yeah.
Did you see that rock?
Yep.
So I'm not even I've never been a fan of diamonds. So when my husband proposed to me with this big, Houston is known for big giant rocks. Like it's like a thing. If you look at like the in America, the size of stones. Well, I'm not wearing mine right now, but if you look at the size of stones, Houston is like known for bigger.
Yeah.
For some reason, Texas is. And so to see her, she has a big, really big pear-shaped stone. My stone, which I think is kind of like like average plus a little bit. My stone fits in like the head of her pear shape, and then hers just continues on. Her stone goes from her knuckle all the way down, from one knuckle to the other. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. So, it's I know we're bringing this to you a month late, but that's okay.
It was a really cute. It was a really cute proposal.
Yeah,
and he was shaking, and I'm so glad she said yes.
Yeah, it was really cool, and for those. The Astros, before the trade deadline, acquired a pitcher by the name of Justin Verlander. He played, I can't remember how many years, but basically his whole professional career with the Detroit Tigers. Got traded here pretty much at the last minute before he, in order to be eligible for the playoffs, he got married to Kate Upton. And, pretty much right after the World Series, they were taking a red eye to Italy, I think it was.
Because they'd already planned
that. Yeah, they already planned it. And I don't think he anticipated having, winning the World Series for one. So I think a lot of people, he wasn't there at the parade. And I think everybody's going to cut him a lot of slack for that. So
I'm surprised they didn't postpone the wedding just in case, though. Just in case, because you never know.
I understand, but
Anyway, and then our last, Elon Musk isn't joking about sending a Tesla to Mars.
Yeah,
I'm sure plenty of our listeners / viewers own Teslas. I mean, I'm sure that's the demographic that we have. I don't even own a Tesla. Anyway, so yes, he is going to slingshot a Tesla. That's my phrase for it. A Tesla to Mars. I am not a fan of this because even though I'm all about the marketing and stuff, I think it's very funny for him to joke about doing this on Twitter because he's very kind of clever on Twitter and he likes to take Ambien and get funny on the internet.
Yeah, he does get kind of goofy on there, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think he can be very funny and he's, kind of goofing around about playing Space Oddity and, does all these cryptic messages. I think one of his first tweets was, "Payload will be my Midnight Cherry Tesla Roadster playing Space Oddity. destination is Mars orbit. We'll be in deep space for 1 billion years or so if it doesn't blow up in a cent. I don't like this because it's so incredibly expensive to launch anything into space. And unless he was doing this as a test mission for okay, so you guys probably don't know this. I know a lot about SpaceX because I actually, one of the films that I worked on was shot in SpaceX's location. I got to basically camp out at SpaceX for quite some time. And so I got to learn a lot. And this was back at the beginning of SpaceX when they still needed rent money. So at their Torrance location, so they were allowing people to film movies there. We filmed Iron Man 3 there when I was working there. So they like shot a wheel of cheese into space, but they shot it into space. It just happened to be on another, like they were orbiting, but they were doing other stuff. It's not like they just said, "Hey guys, let's shoot a wheel of cheese into space." So for him to just decide, "Hey, we're going to shoot a car into space," that's a lot of money and a lot of like resources. And I hope that he's kind of joking because as like a stockholder in certain companies, I'm not going to go into my financial holdings right now, but I really hope that Elon Musk is joking. Because he has people that really believe in him and think that he's an intelligent enough person and that he's a safe person to invest in.
Right.
And to say that he's gonna throw a car into space and let it orbit for the next million years or 1 billion. What is it? 1 billion years or so?
Something like that.
It would decay before then, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, there's no oxygen, so it wouldn't rust.
No. Yeah.
Well,
but no, I understand. I
assume it's just going to orbit.
Do you know how much? I know that there's like a cost per pound as far as sending things to space.
So that's what I mean. Is the fuel?
Yeah.
To launch it would be very, 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 very expensive.
Tremendously expensive.
Oh yeah. That's why I really hope this is
a joke.
Yeah, I hope it's a joke. Yeah. Falcon Heavy is a far more powerful rocket that has been in development for years, while the Falcon 9 has 9 Merlin engines. You guys can't see. I can't move the camera, but I will take a photo. I have in my recording studio, I not only have an enormous 20 by 30 inch photo of a SpaceX launch behind my camera, I also have an original painting by one of the very first moon landing astronauts, Alan Bean. It's signed by him. So one of the very first NASA astronauts, there was Buzz Aldrin, Neil Armstrong, and Alan Bean. A lot of people don't know who Alan Bean is, but he's a friend of one of my business partners, old business partners. He's like 64 years old. He asked me what I wanted for my birthday a few years ago. I said, well, you're friends with Alan Bean. Get me a signed print of his. So he had Alan Bean sign me a print. I will take a picture of it and put it on Twitter. It's a beautiful painting. Print. What's a print of a painting? Anyway, my point is, so I am very big into space. I like space. I also have every single SpaceX patch from every single launch, including refuel missions. I collect, so as far as like art is concerned, I collect certain space like things. In fact, like my keychain is one of the flags that they put on the. Anyway, I'll put some pictures on Twitter if you guys are interested. I love space. I love launches. I wish that I could have gone to some of SpaceX's launches. I have friends that work at SpaceX. Kind of a fan of Elon Musk. I have a love-hate relationship with him. When he says shit like this, it makes me not really a fan. I really hope he's not going to launch a car, especially one of his old, like, heavy-ass cars.
Yeah.
Like, maybe a little... I know he's launched other things, like I think he launched a 4-leaf clover.
Yeah.
Or something like that, like just on something. Anyway, so this story is getting really, really long now. But is slated for ferry cargo on the International Space Station on December 8th. That was my birthday. So
all right.
I think he fucking launched a car. SpaceX has a strong... Oh, no, that was just the... That was another one of his things. Yeah. Out of Hawthorne. Okay, not out of Torrance. They border each other. Okay, anyway. So it was supposed to be positive news. Elon Musk might launch his old car, his shitty old cart out into space. If he does, I'm not going to be happy. And you guys can talk shit about how retarded Elon Musk is because he probably got high on Ambien in the middle of the night and launched a car into space.
Well, cheers. We were hoping to leave you with something positive, but it's all right.
But he might not, and he's just being funny.
Yeah. Well, that should just about do it for us today. Thank you very much for sharing your time with us. My name is Jacob Santillan.
I'm Annika O'Brien.
And where can they find us online?
Make Robots Not War.
Awesome.
Or Annika Skywalker on Gab, or Minds, or Twitter.
Alrighty. And you can find me in my various social media portals at digitalheretic.org. Thanks again for tuning in. We hope you have a wonderful day.